talk about understanding mentorship and its role in executive development. And this first question I'd like to pose to Lisa. Lisa, in your opinion, what does mentorship look like at an executive level? And then if you could go over maybe what are some of the benefits of having a mentor?
Absolutely. Well, let me ground this answer that there's a lot of different executive levels that we're talking about today. So that's really important. But I think that just really going through looking for expertise and experience that can help shape your background or what you're trying to really polish on. Finding that super valuable mentor is really, really important. They can provide many insights from their learnings over time, and they'll also learn from you as well. I think also seeking guidance and feedback is critical in the mentorship, and really understanding how that looks. I think that's a two-way conversation of really settling on what that could look like. Really strong mentors provide constructive feedback to help mentees grow and develop, and actually maybe sometimes even understand whether they're on the right career path or not. Maybe they need to take a different ramp, or simply spot mentoring when there's just a really core question, maybe preparing for a board meeting or something. And also, this also looks really interestingly from the standpoint of opening up networks, both sides. So the mentees will, be introduced to some influential contacts and networks, and could help facilitate growth as well. Career development, as I mentioned, and then also just strategic thinking to see how others think, how they approach that. So, the key benefits from my perspective are accelerated career growth, increased confidence in the role, reshaping what they're trying to polish or what they've been given in career feedback or performance management, an expanded network, as I mentioned, improved decision-making, really a good lens on succession planning for themselves, but also for their organization. And the career navigation, I think, is very important as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's really good to see, like the career development that having a mentor can help you with, and overcoming challenges as well. Anne-Sophie, anything you would like to add to that?
I think I would just highlight the fact that mentorship is a very effective tool for the unofficial roadmap that to do perfectly your job and to actually make sure that you exceed your natural glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. And as Lisa said, it's not a question only of, understanding the sector, understanding the culture of the company. It's actually a safe place, basically, to exchange and strategy think about your career and how you will develop the next tools that you will need to perform and for your new role.
Great, thank you. That's great advice. I'd like to ask Bendik, how can an executive mentor positively impact someone's career growth and leadership development? Lisa talked a little bit about that, but love to hear what your thoughts are on
that. Well, I think I would like to add that mentorship is also can be looked upon as a two-way loop, because when you pick or if you're as lucky as you pick a great mentor, there will be a two-way development in this, and you can look upon these kind of conversations as mentoring, or it could also be some kind of sparring partner for you. But if you pick that great mentor and you find trust in the conversation, I think both of you can actually build both careers, because you will be able to share perspectives, different perspectives from different backgrounds or the same background. You have both been exposed to different kind of challenges, and you also solve those kind of challenges. So built on trust, I guess you can really get into the core of an executive's challenge and the challenges that executives are exposed to. Mm-hmm. And as long as you are able, to find that personal chemistry, you will also be able to develop each other.
Great. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more later also on, finding an executive mentor and tips around that. But those are all great advice, how it can benefit both of your careers as well. And then Marcus, your thoughts on how mentorship can impact positively in terms of career growth and leadership?
Yeah, I think the other panelists all touched on this, but I think one of the most powerful things about mentorship is really honest feedback and coaching, which I think a lot of individuals can find that it can be difficult to get within an organization, especially a large organization. So when it comes to positive career growth, you should really have a trusted mentor that is giving you honest feedback, and as Bendik mentioned, is even a sparring partner, right? Someone to really push you to that next phase, and then from there advocate for you when they feel like you're ready for that. So that's the only thing that I would add to that point. Great,
thank you. I think one of the topics that comes up in mentorship is, how do you identify the need for a mentor? And a really interesting question around that is, at what point in an executive's career might they benefit from mentorship? And Sophie, any thoughts on when somebody might benefit from mentorship?
I think there's a lot of time where you can benefit from mentorship, obviously, but there's the obvious timing when you're taking a new role and you're discovering a new company, a new sector. But more importantly, at least in the financial services industry and in private equity, particularly, I think the reality is that after 10, 15 years, the purely factual numbers, academic performance is not enough anymore, and you need to be a real manager. This is not something that you learn at university. It's something that you foster in your job with the help of others. And around that time, we see a real dropout in some certain population, the female population in private equity, of course, and diversity is drastically reduced at that timing, where it's a period after 15 years in the industry where you are facing personal challenges that can impact your professional performance and your ability to grow into the next role. So this is a particularly important moment when you're entering the phase of partner promotion and you're developing you need to develop new skill set, where a mentor is a really useful person to have next to you, because it's someone that will obviously help you in the adaptation required, that can challenge you on your soft skills, on the way of thinking out of the box, of seizing new opportunities and even creating them. So it's a very important moment for me at the mid professional career, and to guide, basically to have a sounding board in your new developments.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially for folks who might be looking to move up in their career, having a mentor who's a supporter, right, and who can help them advance is really important. So that's great advice around the timing, and especially for certain industries like finance, as you mentioned. Bendik, anything you would like to add around, at what point in an executive's career they might benefit from mentors?
I might, and I may also apologize that I actually don't possess all the nuances in the English language, so I try to express myself the best I can. Maybe I should get a mentor when I think about it. But either way, I think you should lower the barrier for reaching out for a mentor. I don't think you should have very high expectations that the issue you want to share with a mentor has to be, at that high complexity level before you actually reach out. So if you understand what I'm saying now, I think that you should actually get a mentor, or not just a mentor, but a coach or a sparring partner. You should just reach out whenever you face a challenge that you haven't been exposed to before. So don't have too high expectations of yourself that you have to reach a specific level of a challenge before you reach out.
Great,
Just
thank you. Yeah, I think that also plays into kind of our next question, but having different types of mentorship styles and approaches, and how they might differ depending on professional development needs of the executive. So, Lisa, I would love to hear your opinion on different styles of mentorship, formal versus non-formal, and your experience, what those are.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I think that the formal and non-formal, the informal are really important. And I think that when you start to seek out a mentor, many people go to their domain expert peers and colleagues and folks that they look up to. And I think that's really important, but I think we can also learn a lot from people outside of our industry as well, and learn different ways to, approach a problem or even approach strategy. So I think that's one thing. I think that the other part of this in the, thinking through that question, I think that it really does help in expanding your network's really, really important, but it's not tapping just into the mentor's network. And I was going back and forth with Stephen Goodman on chat. Some of the mentors, their networks are pretty nascent at this point, right? So, it's really, can they open doors into professional clubs or into networking, or do they have an idea? Can they, give an opportunity to maybe even audit a board meeting if they can? Obviously, that would be an internal mentor. So things like that. So expanding your network in very, very different ways is really, really important. The other, I would say, is when you're reaching into a mentor, we learn how work happens in different organizations. And because we all get really, really inculcated in our organization, and we're getting our quarterly reports done, we're ready for our analyst call, we're doing this, we're doing that, we have our decks. And when you go to a mentor that perhaps is in a different organization or in a different segment, or go to an analyst and say, I would love to learn more how you think about our business. Those are things, those could be spot mentoring. So that's really, really important. And I think that it takes courage, but if you're at the earnings calls or in an analyst meeting, you introduce yourself and you ask, can I learn from you? I'd like to offer you some things to learn from us as well. The last thing I would just say is, this is also an opportunity when somebody's thinking about a change in their career, they're thinking about leaving an organization. Sometimes a mentor is that person who's really going to keep them on course to say, you're leaving because it's X or Y. Maybe it's just a tough time, or the business is in a tough situation. That's not the time to leave, by the way. So maybe the mentor will help them and redirect and give them ideas of how to approach it. So it's, these are so highly customizable relationships. They could be spot timing, phone calls, and they can be, obviously, and I'm sure we'll talk about some frameworks as well on the mentoring-mentee relationship.
Great, thank you.